Hey there, friends! My name is Desiree, aka Momma Friendly, and I'm trying something a little different this year when it comes to our homeschooling. All of the main information is going to be found in the very first video of this series, which I'll link up here in case you've missed it. But the Cliff's Notes version is that I've been homeschooling my son his entire life. He's 9 years old and on the autism spectrum. He has nonverbal autism along with a few other medical diagnoses. My son also has a complete and absolute undying love for all things Disney, much like his mama. So this year I thought it would be fun to give our unit studies a little bit of a Disney twist. So every 2 weeks this year we're going to start a new unit study based on a Disney ride, movie, character, etc. We're going to be doing our academic work around that theme, but also at least one cooking activity and at least one art activity. So in these videos, I want to show you guys some of the things that we do to fit the theme, and I have a Pinterest board pertaining to each of the themes. And so along with every single one of these videos, there's going to be a link in the description box to that particular theme's Pinterest board. So make sure that you check those out because I am only showing you some of the things that we're getting into every week, but the board is going to have more activities and also activities for kids of different ages and different abilities. So with all that being said, let's get into our theme. Usually for these videos, I just kind of leaf through the book that we're reading, but we have a few different versions of the story this time, so I wanted to show you guys the differences between them. First off, we have our little golden book, and I have a pretty extensive collection of these. I've liked them since I was a kid, so I wanted to make sure my kiddo had a nice collection too. And so usually this is what we reach for. I find that the story is written out a little simpler usually. Not always. This one's a little more wordy than I'm used to, but it's true to the story for the most part. It's short, so it keeps his attention, and we just really love these types of books. I also have this, which is the Disney Wonderful World of Reading set. I believe it's a dozen books, and they're all based on movies, which I really like because it even has some Pixar stuff thrown in there. And something else that I appreciate about these types of books is that they have the words written out sometimes, particularly the adjectives, written out in ways that help you to understand what it is that you're reading. So that's fun as far as like vocabulary acquisition, because it gives you something to really focus on. And like I said, it helps you kind of frame what it is that they're talking about if you're not sure. And then the last version I have of the story is from the Once Upon a World series. There's not too many of these books in the series yet, but I think that we've bought every kind that exists so far. And what I really like about these is that it tells you the story, but from a different cultural perspective. So that kind of opens up the possibility of talking about a different culture and just seeing different representations of the same character and the same story. So I just think that this is really fun. We also used a similar book for our Snow White theme, which I'll post in the corner in case you haven't seen it yet. And here's something for the young adults, older kiddos, or even just Disney loving parents like me. I pre-ordered this a few months ago and serendipitously it arrived today. This is from a series of books called A Twisted Tale. There's multiple authors, but most of them are written by Liz Braswell. And I think there's like a dozen books, between 10 and 12 books at this point. But the idea behind these books is kind of an alternative reality to famous Disney stories. So the ones I've read so far are Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast was fantastic, Sleeping Beauty was another great one, and this one is Tangled themed. So it's called What Once Was Mine, And the twist in it, the alternative is, what if Rapunzel's mother drank a potion from the wrong flower? So they pose a question on the cover. And so you're reading the whole story of Tangled, but from that other perspective. And they're just so good. Like, I haven't read this one yet, obviously, because it just arrived. But I've enjoyed every single one I've read so far. And so, like I said, if you've got an older kiddo, or maybe you yourself are looking for an entertaining series of books to get into, you don't have to read them in any particular order either, because even though it's a series, one doesn't have anything to do with the next. I highly, highly recommend the Twisted Tale series. Alright, Pallies, we're going to start our art activity for our Tangled theme. And we decided we were going to make paper lanterns, just like you see in the movie. So for this, you're going to need a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll. We're using the bigger one, but you can use whatever you have around. I'm just rolling one color of construction paper around the roll so that it's the right size, and I'm going to mark it off so that my son can cut it. We're using two different colors because one is going to go inside and the other one is going to accordion around the outside. So you can use as many colors as you like depending on how many lanterns you're planning on making, but I would suggest two different colors per roll so that the colors really bounce off each other. So I have my son cutting the strip right here. I'm going to do the same thing for the other one because the other one is also going to wrap around the circumference, I guess, of the roll. First, we're putting a little line of glue across the whole paper towel roll so that we can kind of wrap that first color around. That's going to be our base for our lantern. A stapler is not necessary, but it definitely makes things a lot easier because it's going to hold our paper in place while the glue dries. And there's complete detailed instructions linked below in the description box in case you want to follow along exactly. So I'm just using that first piece to help me measure out the length of the second piece, and my son's going to cut this bit out, and this is where it gets a little funky. I've folded our paper that's going to go on the outside horizontally, or like top bit to bottom bit, and I'm doing some lines that don't go quite all the way across. So my son, I'm showing him how to do the first one now. My son's gonna cut these strips, and the idea is to cut almost all the way to the loose ends, but not entirely, because that's what's going to fan out and make our accordion lantern shape. So now that our outside accordion piece is cut up, we're going to put glue on either long end and secure it onto the paper towel roll. Again, we used a stapler to kind of help it keep in place, but that's not entirely necessary. This was really easy and really fun to do. The written instructions were not super clear, but hopefully now with this added visual, it's more helpful and a little easier. You can even decorate the paper before you cut it, maybe draw some suns, some pascals. Go wild, get creative, maybe even make multiples and decorate your whole living room before you sit down as a family and watch the movie. We had a lot of fun with this activity, and we hope you will too. Alright friends, it's time to explore where you can find Tangled across the Disney universe. And the very first thing I want to show you is apparently Disney Cruise Line has a Tangled the musical show that you can watch while you're on the cruise. This video did come out pre-COVID, so I'm not sure if that's still going on. I know Disney Cruise Line only recently went out for their maiden voyage, if you will, after the pandemic, so I'm not sure what the stage show situation is like right now, but hopefully we can look forward to seeing this again because it looks like a lot of fun. Disney shows are always incredible, all the ones I've seen in the parks anyway, so I imagine in the cruise it's just as good if not better. So there's the first example of where you can see Tangled across the Disney parks and otherwise. Apparently in Tokyo Disney Sea, there's an entire Fantasy Springs area. I guess it's their version of Fantasyland, and apparently it's going to have a very Tangled heavy influence. So here's a video of kind of what you can expect when this area of the park is complete. There's the Tangled Tower right there. Look how pretty. So as always, I'm linking all of these videos in the description box below so that if you want to see any of them in full, you are more than welcome to do so. So I'm just giving you a little taste right here. Oh, look how cute that is. The next example I have of Rapunzel and Tangled at the Disney parks is, of course, the Fantasyland Tangled themed bathrooms. It's a little funny that of all the attractions they thought of to bring Tangled into the parks, a bathroom area is what they landed on, but it is incredibly and heavily themed. It's so cute. There's the little lanterns everywhere. If you look down at the floor, you can see the little hoof prints from the horse whose name escapes me, Maximus. There you go. But yeah, you see all the little lanterns, the little purple flowers everywhere. Of course, it's a bathroom area and stroller parking, so there's only so much romanticism you can get out of that particular thing. But if you look towards the left, yeah, look at this, how cute. If you look to the left of the bathrooms, there's this whole waterfall area with the tower here, and there are so many hidden Pascals. I think somebody counted like 26 once, but they're just little chameleons all over the place. So if you're waiting for your family in the bathroom, or if you just want a fun little break from the hubbub of the lines in the parks and whatnot, you can take a few minutes to count the Pascals by the bathroom. Oh, and pigeons, of course, because, they come free with the park. There's also a Tangled ride coming to Tokyo Disney Sea, I imagine as part of that Fantasy Springs area. So this is another video that I'm including where they've got some art mock-ups and some speculation as to the ride vehicles. So nothing is set in stone yet, but again, if you want to see this in full, it'll be linked down below. So here's the last thing I wanted to show you as far as Tangled theming in the parks. This is unfortunately pre-COVID. Hopefully soon parades will be back. But this is from the Festival of Fantasy Parade, and as you can see, Tangled has their very own float. There's Maximus and Flynn and Rapunzel, and it's super cute. The whole parade is really great. I'm linking specifically the Tangled portion, but if you search on YouTube, you can find the entire Festival of Fantasy Parade. Recommend a watch if you haven't seen it in person. It's one of my favorites. Okay friends, it's time to make Rapunzel's chocolate chunk skillet cookie in our cast iron pan, of course. So we're going to need 1.5 cups of gluten-free flour. This one has xanthan gum in it. If not, you're also going to need 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of coconut oil for your pan, but then you also need 8 tablespoons, which is 1/2 cup of melted coconut oil, 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of regular sugar, 1 egg yolk, a tablespoon of non-dairy milk. I know this is coffee creamer, but it's my favorite milk substitute, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chunks. This is the Enjoy Life brand, which is allergy friendly. In case you haven't guessed it, this is of course gluten and dairy free. We're going to start with taking that 2 teaspoons of coconut oil and putting it into our cast iron pan, and then the pan is going to go into the oven while we preheat it to 350 degrees. This is going to make the pan very hot, so you have to be careful when you're handling it, but it's also going to make it so that the cookie gets a nice crispy bottom. I've got a bowl here now where I'm going to mix in my 1.5 cups of gluten-free all-purpose flour. This is where you would put in your 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum if you need it, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're just going to mix it all together and set it aside. So the next thing I need to do is melt down my 1/2 cup of coconut oil. I want it warm enough that it melts, but not so warm that it's hot. So I'm going to put it in the microwave, keep an eye on it, and when it just starts to melt, I'll take it out and just whisk until the rest of it finishes liquefying. I'm going to take a bigger bowl now, and I'm going to beat together the coconut oil, the 3/4 cup of brown sugar, and the 1/4 cup of white sugar until it's well mixed and creamy. Once that's done, I'll add in my egg yolk, my tablespoon of non-dairy milk, and my 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, although you guys know I never really measure vanilla extract. And I'm gonna beat everything for about 30 seconds until it's nice and incorporated. We're going to add about half of our flour mixture into the wet ingredients and mix them until it's just incorporated. Then we're going to repeat with the second half. We can then stir in about a cup of chocolate chips, and our dough is ready to put into the hot cast iron skillet. Please be super careful removing the cast iron from the oven. It is extremely hot. I've got a pastry brush here and I'm just trying to brush the oil all up the sides, and I'm going to mash the dough into the skillet so it covers as much surface as possible. The whole thing's gonna go back in the oven at 350 for 18 minutes. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. I'm gonna let it sit for at least 10 minutes so that it finishes cooking and solidifies a little bit. But while it's still warm, I'm adding some more chocolate chips on top so that they get all melty and gooey. So here it is, ready to eat. This would probably be great with some ice cream, whipped cream, chocolate sauce, but as you can see, my family liked it just fine on its own. Alright friends, that's going to wrap up our Tangled homeschool theme. Making our paper lanterns was so much fun, and I was also thinking what would have been great is if I would have been able to find like a little plastic bag of lizards or something. It would have been super cool to do like a sensory bin with them and find the Pascals, or even do like a scavenger hunt around the house. There's so many activities that you can come up with for this theme. As far as the recipe, that cookie, that skillet cookie, I have been dreaming about that cookie since we made it. It was so delicious. We had a lot of fun with this theme. I really loved getting to share this movie with my son, and I'm sure that we're going to be revisiting this theme in the future. Speaking of which, even though we're done with this theme for now, whenever I come across any other activities or recipes that have to do with a theme that we've completed, I always still go back and add it to those Pinterest boards, so that if you're finding this video later on, there's always going to be new things added, and I try my best to make sure to include things for kiddos of all ages and all abilities. Have you seen Tangled? What's your favorite part of the movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you plan on doing any of these activities with your kiddos, let me know how they go for you, or even take a photo or video and tag me on Instagram so I can share it. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you'll please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell, because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye!